Well, hey, welcome to the Unfinished Leadership Podcast. Great to be with you guys again this month. And joining me on this episode is my friend Adam Everett in Desert City, Phoenix, Arizona. Adam, great
That's
to see
right.
you, man. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
I
Appreciate it,
appreciate
man.
it, man. Hey, it's June
Yeah.
here, so it's getting a little bit warm in the desert.
I can't imagine. How hot is it there today? I can't even imagine.
I mean, I think it's like 106. It's below 110. So once he gets to 110 to 115, you're just like, all right, game
Yeah.
over. We're out. Kind of
It's
tap out.
amazing. Sure. I mean, most people listen to this podcast on Spotify or wherever they get their audio podcasts. Some will watch it on YouTube. And so for those watching the video, you can see that I'm wearing a hoodie this morning and it is June in Chicago. It's in the 50s today.
Right.
Not sure what's going on here. So, I mean, we're like 50-degree difference today. But anyway,
It's
Adam, you're, it's kind of neat when I was thinking about your bio. I mean, man, church planter,
mhm.
pastor, super fit dude, great hang, missionary with Go Ministries. But I got more gym owner, or at least former gym owner, and completer, finisher of the rim to rim to rim
Mhm.
adventure. And so, bro, father, how many kids you got?
Yeah, a father of two, been married for 16 years to one wonderful
Jeez,
wife, Sherry. Yeah, so we've done some things, man.
you've done some
It's been a
things.
journey. It's been a journey. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cool season right now though. It's 11-year-old daughter and then,
Hmm.
wife of 16 years and it's never a dull moment in the house. And then my son just bleached his hair bright blonde. I don't know if you ever
Hmm.
did that in the 90s. It's
Absolutely.
coming back. So he did that and he's 7 and he's a
Oh,
baller, man.
man.
He wants to play basketball 24/7, so it's a lot of fun.
Man, you've got your hands full, and you are a stay ready finisher. You and I just did the Stay Ready Journal together. We just finished up a few weeks ago, and the newest thing that you got going is you're the founder of Endure, and
Yeah.
so I'm excited to hear about that. I love your hat that says Endure, and I know you spell your organization different,
Mhm.
Ndure, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to jump into it. There's leaders that are listening to this podcast, and every single person listening to this podcast, the reason I wanted to have Adam on today is pain is synonymous with leadership.
Mm,
If you're not in pain, you're probably not leading. And I came across that thought a number of years ago and want to credit the book that I got that from called Leadership Pain. And in that book, they talk about how our capacity for influence or our capacity for leadership is directly connected to our threshold of how we handle pain.
mm,
And I read that book and I was like, I don't like that. I wish that wasn't true. I don't like pain. I'm actually trying to avoid pain. And truthfully, a lot of my younger years was me running in the opposite direction of pain. I remember getting mad when my coach at the University of Kentucky had us run 3 miles for practice one day. I'm like, man, this is cruel and unusual punishment. Now it's like, man, I look forward to putting in miles with the boys and doing all the things that I do, Ironman training. And so pain is not your enemy. Pain is your ally. And
mm,
pain can be one of the greatest teachers in life. Obviously, you and I are not like, I love pain. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying on this episode is, hey, let's really think about this perhaps in a different, from a different direction and a different angle. And in doing so, like I could teach on pain, or we could talk about it through some of your story. And that's what I want to do on this episode, Adam, is let's just first start by, these folks don't know you. Talk to me about a little bit of your story. Talk to us about Endure. Like, what does that mean? Why are you starting that? Give us some of the backstory on it. And then definitely I want us to get to this rim to rim to rim unbelievable adventure you guys just
yeah,
completed.
man. Yeah. That's a good word, and I think, pain for me, when I look at the measures or the moments that have measured my life, pain has been a part of the equation.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a variable that you said it, we avoid. And I would say the plague or the idol of our American society is comfort. We want to be comfortable and we seek comfort in every area of our life. And so we'll get into that a little bit later. But, for me, it's like there were some monumental, painful moments. The first that I can recall, which brought me to a Bible college, kind of put me into my profession, was pain. I got arrested when I was 18 years old, and I had a trajectory and a plan through basketball. So fitness has always been a part of my life, and sports have been a huge part. But I wanted to go play basketball, and I had scholarship opportunities, in various places, and I got arrested. And I had my senior season of high school ripped away from me. And that was a
Mm,
painful moment. And
man,
it was when I look back on it, God used that for a purpose. He used some pain. Now that was my own cause, right? Like, and a lot of times it is. A lot of times in life, God says, "Hey, I'm not going to tempt you, but you're going to be tempted."
yeah.
And we fall into the prey of where, Jesus says that the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy.
Mm.
And that's the focus. And so, yeah, for me, you know, going through high school, we kind of went to church every so often. I kind of knew about Jesus ish. But I through a series of my parents were one of those where it's like, hey, you're gonna screw up your life in college if you go to anywhere else other than Bible college. So how about you go there for a year and then you could transfer out, but just give us a year. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, I could do that for a year. And I had some good friends that were going. And so I was like, okay, let's try that out. And God had a different story and different
Where did
plan.
Adam? Where did you go to Bible college at,
I went to Lincoln Christian, used to
bro?
be college, university.
God
Now
rest
it's
her
no
soul.
longer.
Yeah,
I know, right?
bro. I
Yeah,
mean, you and I were together this fall in the Dominican Republic, which was such a good time together. And you're part of Go Ministries, one of the
mhm,
best missionary organizations in the world, in my opinion, is Go Ministries. And so you and I were hanging out with Will and some others in the DR. My wife was there, so it's just a great time. But anyway, I remember us talking about, now that you say that, like how many legends in the church have all come from your Bible
yeah,
college. I mean,
yeah,
it's
dude.
the list is long. I mean, Mike Bro, Gene Apple, Adam Everett, the founder of Go Ministries. I'm pretty sure
Brooke, yeah,
that Brooke
yeah,
went there, and of course Brad Prunty.
yeah. Oh, of
So,
course.
but the list is very long. Anyway, so pain is definitely part of your story, and
Mhm.
I know that you started a gym. You're there in you call it Desert City. Is that kind of what they call Phoenix? Is that one of the names for Phoenix, Desert City, or am I
Yeah.
making that
So
up?
no, so Desert City actually, it's interesting because I owned the gym and we owned it for a season, and I thought, man, life, talk about pain. Like I thought life was at an all-time high. If you were to check all the boxes
Mm,
or place all the little tokens on Adam Everett's bingo card, like I
mm,
got it. In regards to faith and fitness, it's always been a part of my life. As I mentioned, playing basketball growing up all the way through college, I was always in the gym,
mm,
either shooting hoops or in the weight room. And it was always something that sort of drew me in. And also I found that I could also draw other people in. So
mm,
community was a huge part of that.
yeah.
Hey guys, let's go do something hard. In college, we would do that. And when I was a youth ministry, I would work out. I would bring young guys and go work out with them. And in fact, that's how I got introduced to CrossFit. Was through a mentor relationship that I had
Okay.
with a student. I was discipling him, and he got into this whole CrossFit craze. Back in, so this would have been 2011, 2012, so kind of early on in CrossFit. And I remember getting to the gym because I was like a gym bro. Like I was back by chest try and that kind of focus. And CrossFit was just completely out of the box. Um, so I fell in love with the methodology of CrossFit. Yes,
Okay.
this idea of constantly very functional movements at a high intensity is kind of what the definition of CrossFit is. And when it really comes down to it, CrossFit is functional movements performed in various ways, right? And we use that within the gym to then mimic life. So, like you think about a push press, like how many times have we traveled and somebody can't put their carry-on overhead. That's an issue. Or lift up their grandchild to give them a kiss. That's an
Right.
issue. Or bend down. That's a deadlift. So you start to look at life in a way of like, hey, I'm going to take a wall ball. I'm going to bend down. I'm going to pick up and I'm going to go like this. Like, how many times have we done that as fathers to our kids? I want to do that when
Mm,
I'm in my 90s to my great grandkids,
love it.
and that's the goal of CrossFit is longevity and under health and wellness. And we got to define what wellness is or what health is, because we live in a sick world that has sick care, not health care. And we're very
Mm,
proactive, or we're very reactive to what we need. Again, going back to comfort, like
hmm.
we're going to choose to not work out now. But the reality is comfort or pain will catch up to us soon. So it's not
Bro,
inevitable that we're going to
that's
have
good.
pain.
That's
It's just
good.
when that pain's gonna show up and how we are gonna be able to respond to it. And
All right, so
so
you started this gym and it's there in Phoenix. So was it a CrossFit gym that you owned?
so CrossFit Gym, we owned it. We partnered with a couple dear friends of ours, the Hammonds, and it really came out of COVID. So we
Okay.
planted a church here first, and in 2019, end of 2019, 2020 began and just really wreaked some havoc on a lot
Yeah.
of our lives, right? We all
Yeah.
kind
Oh
of
yeah.
go back to that and have a little bit PSD, but
Yeah.
or PTSD. But what happened was my wife and I kind of looked at each other. We had a missional community initiative within the gym. That was our focus. That was our community. That's where we just grew to love a lot of people and had a lot of people in our lives through the gym. And so we're like, let's double down
Mm,
and be owners of this gym and see what God does. And it was really incredible for a season there where it felt like I said, like my bingo card was full. It was like,
yeah.
man, faith, fitness, all of that together. And I mean, we saw just incredible transformation, baptisms, people come to faith, people re-engaging in faith, reuniting with their spouses, like just all kinds of really incredible stories. And it was like, man, God's doing something. And in the midst of that, we started a competition, a CrossFit competition. So similar to like an Ironman or a race or anything like that. There's in the CrossFit world, there's a bunch of different competitions. And that is what I currently own. And that is, Desert City Classic is what I currently
Got
own
it.
there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so
That's
they,
what Desert
I
City is.
split those up. We own the
Okay.
gym. We also started this CrossFit competition. So now we have, I think as of today, we need 4 states to be represented out of the 50 for our competition, and we have hundreds of people going to show up. Probably around 700 athletes. I'll show up here in October. In the Phoenix area to throw down and be a part of a weekend long fitness competition where they get to endure in a lot of different ways. So we have swimming, I mean, there's all the methodologies or ways in which you could fitness. We try to put them through a series of tests. And I always talk about that with Jesus being sent into the desert. I
Mm,
go through Matthew 3 and just say, when we kick off Desert City, Jesus was sent into the desert. I love how the message says it, for the test. And I
mm.
talk about how you're sent to the desert for a test and you think it's going to be a physical one, but I'll assure you that life is not just physical. It's spiritual, it's emotional, it's mental, and you are going to go through a series of tests that will take your whole self. And our hope and our prayer for everybody that participates in Desert City is that you be the best version of yourself holistically as you go through the test.
That's
So,
so good,
yeah,
man.
that's
So
the
someone watching this, listening to this that wants more information on the Desert City Classic, how do they find
that's
that?
it.
What's the
Desert
Desert City
Desert
Class?
City Classic, on
All right,
Instagram.
just
Yep,
on Instagram. That's amazing. And you talked
yeah,
about the test, and one of the things you mentioned is like tested emotionally. Take us into your story of when you're like, oh man, I'm not doing well. And I know some of it because you've shared it with me. And I think it'll be important because there's some guys or some gals that are listening to this podcast that, yeah, they're 3% body fat. They're throwing down every day in the gym. People want their body, but if people only knew what was going on in their mind. So
I
so
think about that a lot with,
yeah.
and I wish there was a way to do it where, you know, spiritually and mentally and emotionally, you could see when somebody's unhealthy. I think there's certainly people that are closest to us that
Mm,
can see it and sense it. Um, but unfortunately, when you're walking down the street from somebody or let's make this a little bit more personal. When, because we've all been a part of small groups, I would assume a lot of people listening are part of a church, you know, or a church community, potentially, and part of a small group or community of people. How many times have we ever gone through a small group, you know, and been with that small group for a long time, you know, a season of, you know, 3 years, 2 years, whatever it may be, and all of a sudden Jane and Bob are getting divorced and we're like, "Whoa, what happened?" Like, they come here every week. Like, Bob never said anything, you know? Or all of a sudden, you know, we have a lot of
mhm,
those stories, right?
yeah.
Where we're in close proximity, you know? And I would say close in the sense of we meet together in a house oftentimes for in a circle for an hour or 2 hours a week, and yet that is not real connection and real vulnerability in regards to being the healthiest version of ourselves from an emotional and mental and certainly spiritual standpoint. And you know, and that's where I found myself. Yeah, 2013, I found myself traveling a ton with Go Ministries, expanding ministry like never before, having a global impact on a global stage, owning a gym, starting a CrossFit
Mm.
competition. I felt like all of the success boxes were starting to be checked in regards how I viewed myself. And, I wanted to continue
This
just
is
to grind.
2023. When is this?
Oh, sorry, 2023. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
2023.
Okay.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
misspoke there. But yeah, so 2023, 3 years ago, and it was just like, man, everything's clicking. We were we were doing well in regards to making an impact, but my home was a war zone. My wife and I co-owned the gym, so we were both owners in the gym, and Sherry, my wife, was owner operator, and I was kind of doing my thing, vision caster, and you know, structure and culture, and setting the foundation of what we are trying to do. And so I would come in and say, "Oh man, we're going to do this and this and this," and then I would peace out to go do my 50 other things and leave her with
Mm,
just the mess, right? So it caused a lot of friction within our home, and we just couldn't get out of it, man. I couldn't get out of my own way. I was running and burning it at both ends. I remember waking myself up in just sort of an anxiety driven sleep. I didn't wasn't getting restful sleep. My whoop was telling me high stress. You
mm,
know, it was bad. And I wasn't going back to the small group thing. I was leading a house church. I was leading a gym. I was leading this community, starting another business, working as a missionary, and yet nobody knew what I was going through. I wasn't honest or vulnerable with anybody in my life because I felt like I had to be for everyone in my life
mm,
what they saw in me. Um, I'll share this quote that was very impactful and kind of summarizes how I felt in that moment was, "You're not who you think you are. You're not who other people think you are. You are who you think other people think that you are."
mm.
You got that? Like, it's a little bit
Wow.
convoluted, but
Yeah.
it is very directed to we portray what we think other people think that we need to emulate, and that was my life to a T. So I was strong, I looked good, I was cut, I was leading, I was a business owner, and yet everything else was falling apart and nobody knew about it. And
Mm,
my wife came to me and said, Something's got to change." And I was like, "Well, what do you think?" She's like, "I don't know if we should own the business." And I was like, "Absolutely not." We, she goes, "Well, you got to either pick the gym or you got to pick me." And I didn't answer her. I just looked at her and I said, "Well, I guess we both know the answer," and I walked away. And it was in that moment where I realized how jacked up I was, that I was gonna choose a business and an image over my wife and my marriage. Um, and I could not shake it. So I was planning on getting out of ministry. I was planning on blowing up my marriage, and uh it was about a month of that, of just complete self-sabotage. So, complete disconnects. We were just we were sleeping in the same house. I was often sleeping on the couch, but again, nobody knew anything, and we were planning on filing for a divorce. And a moment happened in the spring of 2023 where, um, I was absolutely wrecked. And it was the crux of her getting ready to file. It was the crux of, a long series of just, I would say, like, emotional abuse of, like, our kids, if I could say, like, the word phrase of our kids, it would be, "Stop fighting, stop fighting." And, I just remember that moment of feeling just completely undone, um, and helpless, and, like, I can't do this anymore. And it was in that moment, that pain, I never sat with it, sat with my pain, sat with my hurt. I never even thought about it. I was thinking of the plans and executing the
Mm,
plans to get away from it, to escape it. And I remember reading James 1 and just being like, "Consider it pure joy when you face trials or tests of many
mm,
kind, for the testing of your faith, the testing of your marriage, the testing of your fitness, the testing of anything produces endurance." I remember reading that it would have been the morning of April 14th.
okay.
Very vividly remember that
Wow.
morning.
Mm,
And after a sort of a drunken night where I was leaning on alcohol to cope,
yeah.
I woke up that next morning with the worst hangover and felt like everything was over, and James 1 was what I read. And it was just like, I have to let endurance run its course. And the words that brought me to life and that saw a sense of freedom within me was, "So you can be fully mature, complete, and lack nothing." And I wanted so much of that phrase to be indicative of my life, to be
Mm,
fully mature in every area, complete or perfect, and lack nothing. Like, who doesn't want that? And so it's like, how do I get that complete surrender to Jesus? And that's coming from a pastor that said, I'm not completely surrendered to Jesus. So that was the pain, man. And that's really where Endure
wow.
came from.
Man, and so since mid-April 2023, you guys have been rebuilding your marriage and your connection, and you're walking in.
To talk about Go for a moment, I just want to
Yeah, Go Ministries. Yeah.
talk about Go and particularly Will Parton's leadership is
Love,
he
love. We need to have him on the podcast. He's a absolute
absolutely, bro.
legend. So
Absolutely. And
he leads Go Ministries. For those of you that don't know Will Parton, he's the head of Go
mhm,
Ministries. And yeah, keep going.
yeah. So he he I flew up there in May of 2023. Speaking of Brad Prunty and
Mm,
others were there, and I just broke down and said, "Hey guys, I'm disqualified. I'm disqualifying myself for ministry. My life and my marriage is wrecked and ruined, and I have to quit." So I was doing a retreat. What's crazy is just like felt, again, this is how I feel like the devil or the schemes of the evil one kind of portray things. Like during the entire retreat, it was like the best retreat. Like, like, I felt like I had more impact and more influence and more, ideas and direction than ever before, and yet, in the midst of all that, it was like, dude, my life is so jacked up, and so, it was like, well, maybe I don't have to say this. There's some thoughts and feelings about it, like, I live in Arizona, they won't really know, like,
Mhm.
maybe I can white knuckle it and
Mm.
take care of it myself, and I went to bed. It was the night before the last night of that retreat, and it would just Holy Spirit just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like confession is the key to
Mm.
your influence
Okay.
and your success. And so I just was like, I have to confess. And so I just sat down with Will and said, dude, I know what's gonna happen. Or I thought he was gonna fire me, that this was gonna be over, that and I just laid out my my abuse with alcohol, my intentions with divorce and my wife, my over the course of this last, 6 months to a year of just being ruined in that way. And he just looked at me and said, "No, no, you're not quitting. In fact, we're gonna send you to Blessing Ranch, you and your wife, and you're gonna go through this. You are going to endure."
Mm.
And so they, go such a blessing, man. So we went to Blessing Ranch and it changed our marriage. It changed our landscape. It changed our environment in our home.
Mm.
And the last 3 years have been building blocks towards restoration. And it's really this word that my wife and I keep coming back to, like, we can endure. Like, I remember a year after April 13th of 2024, and we're going on a walk. I'll never forget it. My wife looks at me and she said, with tears in her eyes, she says, "Thank God for last year."
Wow.
And I'm like, "What?" Because she said, "Because we would not be where we are today without the pain that we went through."
Mm.
Um, and I could not agree more.
Adam, that's incredible. And just to kind of underline that real quick for anyone that's watching, listening, whose marriage is on the brink of collapse, and uh, get help. And the Blessing Ranch is an incredible organization now under, I think, Go Ministries,
Yeah,
but there's others out there, and so we just want to encourage you to be to be inspired by this story, to get the help that you need, and help is possible, restoration is possible, healing is possible. On the other side of enduring is so much blessing, and that's what you're experiencing now, man. What an incredible story. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest, just
thanks,
sharing
man.
with our audience today of, and, because it's easy. I mean, like, if anyone's around you for 30 seconds, they're like, man, this guy's never had any problem in his life. Look at this guy. He's jacked, he's ripped, he's got a great beard. This guy has everything going for him, and yeah, there's a story, and that story is so inspiring. So we're talking about pain this month. We're talking about enduring. So before we get into the rim to rim to rim story, real quick, just kind of talk about Endure and this organization that you started, and just give us kind of just a few minutes on
Yeah.
what you're wanting to do, and how that's going.
Yeah, man. It's that word has been my word. It's
Yeah.
something that I've placed in my life, and it's been consistent. So how do I continue to come alongside other men, particularly to endure? And that's one of the things I saw, like, at the gym. We have a men's group that we started about same time that we started the gym about 6 years ago now. And what I consistently saw was men wanted to escape and not endure.
Mm.
That's why divorce rates are the way that they are, because we escape our current reality and we make a new reality. Well, or we try to, at least. And we escape in the presence of people. We grab our phones. How many times are we in a conversation and somebody's looking at their Apple Watch or getting dinged, and we're not enduring the inconvenience of stopping the messaging. We are escaping the current reality here, of a friendship and a relationship to look for something better or something more enticing or something more important than the person across from us. And so we can look at every area of our life, and we do church hopping because that pastor is not the way that we want him to be. And, he's too fit and talks about discipleship too much and, makes me uncomfortable or whatever. Not talking about you, John. Um, but, we do this with all kinds of things. And so I saw that within this guys group, and was like, man, I want to come alongside men to be able to endure holistically, heart, mind, soul, and strength, not just, hey, let's do a hard workout and figure out how to endure physically. I think we got that down on some level. Um, that said, I think every man needs three things. They need connection. I think we oftentimes confuse community or association or like acquaintances with real, authentic connection. When we
Mm,
have connection, I see you, you see me, we're heard. Men need to be heard, they need to be held.
mm,
Like, that's a weird word, but they need to be like, man, there's something about physical touch of like, dude, embracing another man and say, dude, I got you. We don't do that well. And so we need to be heard, we need to be held. Um, and ultimately we need challenge and we need coaching. And so those
mm.
three things are kind of the three ways in which we are looking for men
That's
to be
cool. So
formed.
we got connection, challenge, coaching. Are those your three
Mm,
kind of big three with Endure?
yeah.
Love
And
that. So are you coming along? Are you coaching other men right now? Are you getting into that space?
yeah, so what we're doing
Good.
is,
Good.
we're launching out from the challenge aspect.
Okay.
And that's what we did for our very first one. We said, okay, what's the
Okay.
hardest thing in North America to do? Well, rim to rim to rim is it. So, I think, and we all know this, but like, it's almost like there's a bond that's formed when you go through suffering with
Yeah.
a team, right? With a
Yeah.
with a group. And we I played sports, you played sports, like we've a lot of people on the podcast probably have played sports before. It's like when you're in the huddle, like, so let's just say the locker room, you have the jersey on, like the bond is not formed or fused in the locker room. The bond comes after the blood, the sweat, the grass stains, after you're on the field actually playing the game, that you come
Mm,
back in, you say, dude, we did it. And it may have been lost, or it may have been, not the win that you're looking for, but we had a bond that formed us together. And that's really where Endure is really primed, is that we're going to do big challenges, and it's through the challenge and through the training that we're going to form connections. And then ultimately, and connections meaning like groups of men getting together all around the country. So we have a few different groups that are meeting now. We call them the Endure Co, short for company.
nice.
But when we have a
Love
company,
that.
we have a co, and then we practice, confession and community and connection together, in those groups. And so, but my belief is that that doesn't really click until we do something really, really hard. And so
I
those
love that,
challenges
Adam.
are what we're going to do. Yeah.
That's great. So somebody that's like listening to this right now, like, man, this is what I've been looking for. Do they go to endure.com or what's the website? Or is it
Yeah. So
endure.co?
we're getting ready to launch the website. We're just getting started. So
Okay.
endureproject.com or .org is
Great.
endureproject.org. And then, Endure Project on Instagram is where you'll
Okay.
find it, or, follow me at Adam Everett.
Great. And
But
I'll link to that. I'll link
yeah,
to that in the when we put all this on the socials and on our unfinished leadership Insta. We'll make sure and link to that. So all right, we've got just a little bit more time. I'm dying to hear about this rim to rim to rim. I mean, people say it's like one of the hardest things that there is to do. So take us into the story, man. How many guys
yeah.
did this with you?
So we
What
had
was it
29
like?
guys. Yeah, man, it was
Bro.
29 guys. We trained for 18 weeks. So starting
Mm,
in January all the way through to May. Um,
wow.
and I'll tell you, man, like, the training, the process with the guys was one thing, being able to understand, okay, how do we get ready for this? How do we survive and thrive through this, experience together? So there was a height sense of accountability, of actually doing the work, because the canyon is going to expose you if you don't, right? So you're going to
Yes.
go through that test and you're going to fail the test if you haven't done the work, right? So that was just that bonding and that experience with the guys was just incredible, man. And so we get to game time and there's just so much anxiety around it because you're doing something, at least for me, that I've never done before. Majority of the guys, 26 of the 29, have never even been down in the canyon. A lot of them have lived here their whole life and never actually gone down. Actually, this is a cool stat. Less than 1% of people that ever go to the Grand Canyon ever break the rim, meaning they ever
Come on.
go down at all. And it's 0.05% or something to that effect, that ever do rim to rim. And then obviously less than that for rim to rim to rim. But um, so millions and millions of people go to this hole.
Um,
And if you've never been there, if you have been there, you understand this. Like when you're there, you look down, it looks fake. It looks like a picture. And you're just like, oh, and there's a little itty bitty, you can barely see the river, the Colorado River. And you're just like, this doesn't look
mm,
real. And so we got there 3 o'clock in the morning. We had a whole experience. We want to try to create an environment
yeah.
where men are really prepared, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So created that environment the night before, got ready, and then made our way down to the Grand Canyon and got dropped off at 3 in the morning, headlamps on, can't
Okay.
see anything. You look down the canyon and it is complete, utter darkness.
Mm,
So we start going, you have your poles, you have your pack. And we really do a good job with making sure that everybody obviously is well prepared, not just physically, but has their equipment, has everything that they need. So there's a ton of work and effort that goes on to our part to make sure that there's success that happens on the other side for as much as we can for the men that participate in this. And so there's a lot of training, a lot of strategy, a lot of conversations around what's on your pack, how much
yes.
sodium you have to water and
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
ratios, right? And
So
um,
important, the nutrition, because this thing is over
mhm,
40 miles, right?
yeah, 43 miles,
And what's
so 20.
the elevate? So obviously that's, 43
Mhm,
miles is, isn't easy. That's for sure.
mhm.
Was the mileage the hardest part, or was it the elevation in like,
Bro. Yeah, so I mean, you go down and you're going down South Kaibab and complete darkness. I had almost a fatal flaw of a loss of a pair of underwear to begin
oh,
with. Yeah,
oh,
so it was close. It was touch and go there for a moment, but I got separated from everyone, and I'm doing this first stint, all alone in the dark,
mm,
and
mm,
it was an incredible time. A lot of times you are alone because you just get separated from people and you get kind of rejoined with people and all that. But there's several stories from guys about just how cool that was and moments where it was just you and yourself and just this amazing creation that God has created, and you just can't help but look up and see the stars are in the million. I mean, you can't even count them, right? It's
mm.
nothing like I've ever experienced before in my life or seen in my life. And so I turned my lamp off, looked up at the stars and just like, thank you, God. And so you're going down. People don't realize going down just blows up your quads. So I had a moment there where I was separated. I was like, dude, I got to run now, probably run a little bit faster than I want to. And so I'm running and dude, I'm like, my legs are kind of feeling a little bit jello-y once I get down to the very bottom. I'm like, man, I might have gone a little bit too hard or too hot to initially begin with. And so then you're down the canyon, you're just exploring. It's like Colorado River's right there. It's just beautiful. Every turn, every moment is just an awe moment, right? And you're just
Wow.
like, this is unbelievable. Thank you, God. And just, you can't help but worship. You can't help but see a higher and more prominent being in your life than in the Grand Canyon. And so you're doing that, caught up with the guys. We make our way. So about a 7-mile trek. So 7 miles down, 7 miles across, roughly, and then 7 miles back up the north side. And that's what just man, I was not prepared for. You're going, so
Mm,
it's 12,000 feet elevation gain total, right? So just under 12. So you have, I don't know what it is up at the north rim, but it's 6 inch of change, a little bit more on the north and a little bit less on south, but it's a little bit steeper. So you're going through and you're just like, dude, this is excruciating pain, like something I've never felt in my life. And I'm not even halfway done. So
mm.
I ran out of water about a mile before the summit of the North End. And thank God my kids actually came down about a quarter of a mile down, and they were part of the support team, which um, obviously we didn't have kids involved, but my kids were involved. And it was just a special moment to see them, and brought me to tears, and was like,
I
"Okay,
bet.
I can make it to this,
Yes.
north side." And we had a whole support team. So what we do is we have a support team that launches us and then a support team that meets with us in the north end, so lunch and snacks and electrolytes, and we have tons of sponsors, Yeti, Relight. I mean, we have a ton of people that are
Awesome,
involved,
man. Right
511.
on.
So just a lot of my relationships with Desert
Yeah.
City that want to be a
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of something like that. So anyway, I would have told you, dude, like that was the hardest thing I've ever done is rim to rim. And there was a moment there where I'm cramping. I'm trying to get my hydration back, trying to get my sodium levels back. And I'm like, can I do this? Can
Mm.
I go? I have to go back
'Cause you still
down.
got to go down and up one more time to the
Yes.
south
So
rim.
I'm only halfway done.
You're halfway, bro.
And
This is awesome.
so it
I'm
was just a
loving this.
moment of just like doubt. I was a little bit
Yes.
frustrated. I'm confused on what I wanna do. I can't give up on this. And looking around, it was just every guy was wrecked. So we actually have an average time, we clocked everyone. So average time of being at the North Rim was an hour and 17 minutes. If you would have asked the guys, the group, "Hey, what do you think the average time is gonna be?" Everybody would have thought, "Oh, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes max." Hour 17 is what people were sitting up there for. And
Right.
every single one of them, even
Yeah.
the ones that had done it before, are thinking,
Mm.
okay, can I do this? And so one by one, you're just talking with the guys, getting a little pep talk, you're strategizing on what's going to happen. And one by one, guys are starting to go down, you know, and they're like,
There we
okay,
go.
getting my pack ready, getting ready to
There
go.
we
And
go.
so it was a moment where
Yes.
I was probably at 2 miles down the north rim, and I was like, it just dawned on me, I'm not turning back.
Mm.
I'm not turning back. I gotta go to the very end. And, man, it tested every part of my being. There was a lot of just overwhelming tears, and
Yeah.
there was, again, my feet were blistered, and my body felt good. My feet were destroyed. We got the famous expensive lemonade down at Phantom Ranch. So for those that don't know, Phantom Ranch has unbelievable lemonade. It's just standard lemonade, like it's nothing special. But after, at that point, over
Yeah.
around 30 something miles, you're like,
It's
dude, this is the
famous.
best lemonade ever. So and then you'll get from Phantom Ranch, and then you have the
Yeah.
7-mile trek back
We
up
got to
South Rim.
back up.
And we had, sun is setting. And so at that point, I was at 16 hours in, and I finished at 19, a little over 19 hours.
Did you
And,
really? Wow, bro.
that 3-hour stretch was, the hardest stretch.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
but you finish. Our crew did such a great job with just cheering everybody on. And so you summit, and every single person that summited was cheered for, was welcomed in, and was, high-fived and all that. And our team just did a phenomenal job, our support team, all the crew
Yeah.
around it. just to make it a memorable moment
Yeah.
for everyone. And seeing everybody, I didn't actually know that I was finishing because it was so dark and I was at that point kind of slightly hallucinating. I saw a cat, which I thought was a cat, was a rock, and kind of freaked me out. And then, I'm sitting there on my poles because my feet were hurting so bad, and I leaned against my poles to alleviate some of the pressure. And I actually turned my back because there was gusts of wind. It was like
Mm,
30-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, and so I turned my back. Well, I turned my back to the summit, and all of a sudden I hear just this uproar of cheering, and I turn around, it's all the guys that had finished, it's, my family and our support team,
mm,
and so needless to say, I ran the remaining, 200 meters back up and was just like, "We did it," and when I say we did it, I truly mean that. Like,
yeah, I
it
bet.
was a group effort, and I would not have been able to do that alone, without the support, without the crew. It was really something memorable and special, and I'll just say this, John, just like that is what Endure is about, and that's what the Endure project is really going to focus on, is we can do hard things, and it's when we do hard things, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it
Mm,
unlocks all of that to endure fully so that we can live freely. And there is a sense of freedom that
mm,
happens when you accomplish something really hard in your marriage, in your life, in your friendships, relationships, whatever it may be. When we actually endure, we unlock something of a
mm.
greater capacity within ourselves that we never thought imaginable. And I believe that with what we're trying to do with these challenges. And so we're going to launch 4 challenges next year.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm excited to release those. I can't say much right now other than we are gonna do Rim to Rim to Rim, um, on May 23rd through the 25th. That will be that weekend, is gonna be when we'll open up, and,
Okay.
I'm excited for what's to come.
Adam, man, my heart rate is up. Um, these are the stories that move me deeply and do hard things. I mean, it's just you can see sitting over here in the office. I mean, it's one of my
Yes.
signs that I have, and it's I believe in it. It matters to me, and resilience is a perishable skill. It's like milk in the fridge. So we're just gonna stay at it every day, every week, every month, and we're gonna do this in community together. And I mean, I hope there's folks that are listening here in Chicagoland that are like, all right, I'm doing that rim to rim to rim. So you guys follow Adam Everett on the socials, get connected to what he's doing. Perhaps you want to jump in one of his cohorts or get him as a coach, whatever this may look like. But this was a gift,
Awesome.
man, to have you on the podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Honored.
Thank you for not just being another really fit guy out there. Thank you for being a guy that chose to not quit on his family, to not quit on his wife.
Mhm.
There's a lot of bros in the gyms out there, but you're more than that, and you're a
Thanks, man.
leader of leaders. You're a man that has learned and is learning how to endure, and you're becoming mature and complete, lacking nothing.
Mm.
And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you chose to not quit.
Thanks, man.
And I'm excited to hear how God continues to use you and your ministry and all the cool things that you're up to in this world. Thanks for being on the podcast. And we'll
Appreciate you,
see you
man.
guys. Yeah, we'll stay in touch. We'll see you guys next month.